Madiam Wapanya Yarushalayim. Stand and face Jerusalem. Mashiach Spalad. Abanawa. Shabashamayam. Padash. Haya. Shamka. Yahweh. Malakwaka. Taba'a. Raktazaka. Haya. Aisha. Ba'arataza. Hawa. Haya. Bashamaya. Yatan Lanawa. Nakam. Kal. Yawam. Wasalak Nawa. Kawab Nawa. Kasalak Nawa. Kawabat Nawa. Wala'a. Kabaya Anawa. Badasayawan. Abal. Hawashai Nawa. Mayan. Rai. Haya. Haya, Laka, Hamalakwa, Waha'ala, Wahatapa'ara, Awalamim, Ba'asham, Shiak, Yawashai, Tawara, Aman.
The book of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 9. After this manner, therefore, pray ye, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. For if ye forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if ye forgive not men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. Bahashim Hamashiach Yahavashai, the Wadatam Yah. Amen.
Amen. The Shabbat, be seated. That's from 4? Oh, yeah, that's from 4. Shalom, Yasharala, Shabbat Shalom, Shalom Mashikawashai. I praise the Most High, Shalom Mashikawashai. And the Most High once again for another Shabbat day, where Israel can come together as per the covenant He made with our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And we are the Light of Zion, located down there in South Florida. 2937 West Broward Boulevard, Fort Lauderdale. I'm Elder Bishop Lapala, to my left.
Officer Mazamor, Shalom.
And we're going to continue today, most high willing, 2 Kings chapter 3. First, let's get Colossians 3:17.
The book of Colossians chapter 3, verse 17. And whatsoever ye do in word or deed, do all in the name of Hamashiach Yahavashai, giving thanks to the Most High and the Father by Him.
Right, whatever you do in word or deed, make sure you do it in accordance to the Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments, and the testimonies of the Mashiach Yahavashai. Right? Let's go to 2 Kings chapter 3, verse 1.
The book of 2 Kings, chapter 3, verse 1. Now Jehoram, the son of Ahab, began to reign over Israel in Samaria the 18th year of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, and reigned 12 years.
Right, and so we know Ahab got killed in a battle. And now his son, Jehoram, is going to reign in his stead. He's going to reign in Samaria, that's the northern kingdom of Israel. In the 18th year of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, and he reigned for 12 years. I read on.
And he wrought evil in the sight of the Most High, but not like his father, and like his mother, for he put away the image of Baal that his father had made. Nevertheless, he cleaved unto the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, which made Israel to sin. He departed not therefrom,
And this guy Jeroboam, that was the first king of the northern kingdom. Like he planted a wicked seed in Samaria, the northern kingdom. And first of all, he appointed men who were not Levites to be priests. He created golden calves and all that in the northern kingdom, and have them worshiping those images instead of the Most High. He appointed high holy days, which were different from all the high holy days the Most High set up, and forbade the Israelites from going back to Jerusalem to worship. And his successors, kings after him, walked in his ways. Caused the northern kingdom to go way off from the Most High. But this Jehoram, the son of Ahab, he wasn't as bad as his father according to scriptures, but nonetheless, he was nowhere near righteous. He put away some of the images of Baal, but he still walked in the wicked footsteps of wicked kings before him. Read on.
Verse 4. And Mesha, king of Moab, was a sheep master, and rendered unto the king of Israel 100,000 lambs, and 100,000 rams, with the wool. But it came to pass, when Ahab was dead, that the king of Moab rebelled against the king of Israel. And King Jehoram...
So this guy, Mesha, the Moabite king, was a sheep master. That's probably a fancy word for shepherd, something like that. Or someone who oversees the shepherd. It wasn't the rearing of cattle. So he rendered unto the king of Israel 100,000 lambs and 100,000 rams with the wool. So he had a deal that he would provide that many lambs and rams to Israel. But after Ahab died, because Ahab, he was a wicked king along with his wicked wife Jezebel, but he had some kind of a militancy about him. So kings were very cautious how they wage wars against him. But after he died, they perceived that his son Jehoram wasn't as strong as Ahab, so they rebelled against Jehoram. Read on.
Verse 6. And King Jehoram went out of Samaria the same time, and numbered all Israel. And he went and sent to Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, saying, The king of Moab hath rebelled against me. Wilt thou go with me against Moab to battle? And he said, I will go up. I am as thou art, my people as thy people, and my horses as thy horses.
So Jehoram decided to, hey, I'm gonna have to put up a fight against this guy. So he went out for his kingdom and numbered the men who were old enough to battle. And then in addition to that, he reached out to Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, and requested his service as an ally in the battle against Moab. And Jehoshaphat was willing to go with him to war against Moab. Read on.
Verse 8. And he said, Which way shall we go up? And he answered, The way through the wilderness of Edom. So the king of Israel...
Let me see the map right there. So they were inquiring, which way should we go up to Moab? They said, the way through the wilderness of Edom. So Moab. Okay, so that would be a very strategic move then, because Israel is up there, way north of Moab. Moab is right there. Understand? Moab is right here below Reuben, territory of Reuben, and just east of the Dead Sea, but the north of Edom. So So how are we going to go go to Moab? Because Samaria is another kingdom. Understand? So I guess they were going to maneuver through Edom. They're going to go through Edom. They're going to come bring their troops down into Edom's territory. You know, Esau is so quiet today, but at the time, Edom was really a tributary to Israel, because are an ally of some sort. Because during David's time, David had subdued Edom to such an extent that Edom was basically battered and bruised up, and they had garrisons in Edom. So Edom was basically under the governance of Israel. So that's how they were able to get the cooperation with Edom. Yes, we will shoot down into Judah's territory, and go up from Judah up into Moab to attack Moab. That's the strategy that they were planning. I read on.
Verse 9. So the king of Israel went, and the king of Judah, and the king of Edom, and they fetched a compass of 7 days' journey, and there was no water for the host, and for the cattle that followed him.
So in addition to Israel and kingdom of Judah, they also had the cooperation of Edom to attack Moab. Read on.
And the king of Israel said, Alas, that the Lord hath called these 3 kings together to deliver them into the hand of Moab. But Jehoshaphat said, Is there not here a prophet of the Most High, that we may inquire of the Most High by him? And one of the king of Israel's servants answered and said, Here is Elisha, the son of Shaphat, which poured water on the hands of Elijah.
So one thing we got to notice about this, what the scripture is telling us, that about this alliance and the request of the Most High, was that there was no separation of church and state, rulership. Whenever Israel was going to battle, they always inquired of the prophets who inquired of the Most High if it was profitable or in Israel's best interest to go to war. They always inquired of the Most High. Understand? So the king always had a prophet around him who was in contact with the Most High. So there was no so-called separation of church and state. The state was always ruled in collaboration with the church. Church being, we could say that the prophets would always communicate with the Most High as to how Israel should govern itself. I read on.
Verse 12. And Jehoshaphat said, The word of the Most High is with him. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat and the king of Edom went down to him. And Elisha said unto the king of Israel, What have I to do with thee? Get thee to the prophets of thy father, and to the prophets of thy mother. And the king of Israel said unto him, Nay, for the Most High hath called these 3 kings together, to deliver them into the hand of Moab.
So they heard of Elisha. Elisha, is Elisha being the protege or the apprentice, or the previous servant of Elijah, who we know was taken up in the chariots of Israel to the Most High. And Elisha became his successor, and was given a double portion of Elijah's spirit. So now Elisha was a major prophet in the northern kingdom, in the kingdom of Israel. So there's these 3 kings now: Jehoshaphat, Jehoiah, what's his name? The king of Edom, and Jehoram, the king of Israel, Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, and the king of Edom. All these 3 kings were now inquiring of Elisha if it was profitable or wise for them to go to war against Moab. But Elijah was saying, why are you coming to me? Why don't you go to the prophets of your mother, the prophets of your father? That's who you always inquire of. But why you not coming to me? I read on.
And Elisha said, as the Most High of hosts liveth, before whom I stand, surely, were it not that I regard the presence of Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, I would not look toward thee, nor see thee.
So there was tension between Elisha and Jehoram. But they were saying, you know what? I want to talk to you because of the respect that I have for Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah. And Elisha said, as the Most High of hosts liveth, before whom I stand, surely, were it not that I regard the presence.
Ye shall not see wind, neither shall ye see rain. Yet that valley shall be filled with water, that ye may drink, both ye and your cattle and your beasts.
Right. So now you call it a minstrel, like a musician, play an instrument. And it came to pass, and the minstrel played, the hand of the Most High came upon him. And he said, thus saith the Most High, make this valley full of ditches. So they were planning the strategies now as to how they're going to approach this war against Moab. Read on.
And this is but a light thing in the sight of the Most High. He will deliver the Moabites also into your hand. And ye shall smite every fenced city and every choice city, and shall fell every good tree, and stop all wells of water, and mar every good piece of land with stones. And it came to pass in the morning, when the meat offering was offered, that, behold, there came water by the way of Edom, and the country was filled with water. And when all the Moabites heard that the kings were come up to fight against them, they gathered all that were able to put on armor, and upward, and stood in the border. And they rose up early in the morning, and the sun shone upon the water, and the Moabites saw the water on the other side as red as blood.
Right. So the Most High at the water, they dug the ditches, and then the Most High at the water, the ditches, and the Moabites looking at the water, but the water appeared as blood to them. So let's see what conclusion they drew from the perception of the water, that it was actually blood instead of water. Read on.
Verse 23. And they said, this is blood. The kings are surely slain, and they have smitten one another. Now therefore, Moab to the spoil. And when they came up to the camp of Israel, the Israelites rose up and smote the Moabites, so that they fled before them. But they went forward, smiting the Moabites, even in their country. And they beat down the cities, and on every good piece of land cast every man his stone, and filled it. And they stopped all the wells of water, and felled all the good trees. Only in Ker Hareseth left they the stones thereof. Howbeit the slingers went about it, and smote it.
Right, so then the Moabites seen the water as blood, thought that there might have been some internal warfare going on between the kings of King of Israel and King of Judah and Edom and the King of Edom, and that they slew each other, they slaughtered each other. So now so they're saying, they slaughtered each other, so now the land is wide open. No, the camp is wide open. No, they're weak now. So we're going to go in and take all the spoil. And then they run up on the Israelites, the camp of Israel, and then the Israelites just they slew them, chased them back into their own country. Read on.
Verse 26. And when the king of Moab saw that the battle was too sore for him, he took with him 700 men that drew swords, to break through even unto the king of Edom, but they could not. Then he took his eldest son that should have reigned in his stead, and offered him for a burnt offering upon the wall. And there was great indignation against Israel, and they departed from him, and returned to their own land.
See that? So Moab now When he saw that the battle was too hard for him, he tried to go into Moab, tried to go to Edom with 700 men, but he couldn't. And just like these heathens do, what did he do? He sacrificed his son. His son who was supposed to be his heir. He sacrificed his son down to Molech, or to his god, the god of Moab, hoping that he was gonna get blessing. That was a short chapter verse 27 verses. Let's now jump to chapter 4. 2 Kings chapter 4.
The book of 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 1. Now there cried a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets unto Elisha, saying, Thy servant my husband is dead, and thou knowest that thy servant did fear the Most High, and the creditor is come to take unto him my 2 sons to be bondmen.
So this woman, this is like a woman with a certain woman of the wives of the sons of the prophets, cried unto Elijah, saying, Thy servant my husband is dead, and thou knowest that thy servant did fear the Most High, and the creditors come to take unto him my 2 sons to be bondmen. Okay, so the provider, this prophet, her husband, the provider, passed away. Okay, so now she's not able to provide for herself. So the people she had borrowed from and coming to collect, and because she wasn't able to pay, they want to take her 2 sons to be what? Bondmen. Let's see how Elijah reacted to this. Read on.
Verse 2. And Elisha said unto her, What shall I do for thee? Tell me, what hast thou in the house? And she said, Thine handmaid hath not anything in the house, save a pot of oil.
You have to remember what was going on. Israel was a lot of Israelites was in poverty at this time, due to warfare and all that, hardship. Read on.
Then he said, Go, borrow thee vessels abroad of all thy neighbors, even empty vessels, borrow not a few. And when thou art come in, thou shalt shut the door upon thee and upon thy sons, and shalt pour down into all those vessels, and thou shalt set aside that which is full.
So all she had in her household was just a pot of oil. So Elisha told her to go to borrow vessels from her neighbor, into which she was going to pour the oil. Read on.
Verse 5. So she went from him and shut the door upon her and upon her sons, who brought the vessels to her, and she poured out. And it came to pass, when the vessels were full, that she said unto her son, Bring me yet a vessel. And he said unto her, There is not a vessel more. And the oil stayed. Then she came and told the man of the Most High, and he said, Go, sell the oil, and pay thy debt, and live thou and thy children of the rest.
See that? So there was so much oil from all that small amount of oil that she had. That all the vessels that she filled was not enough to hold all the oil that she had. But Elisha told her to sell the oil, and with that money, pay her debt, and the rest of the oil that her and her son could live off that. Her and her sons can live off that. Read on.
Verse 8. And it fell on a day that Elisha passed to Shunem, where was a great woman, and she constrained him to eat bread. And so it was, that as oft as he passed by, he turned in thither to eat bread. And she said unto her husband, Behold now, I perceive that this is an holy man of the Most High, which passeth by us continually. Let us make a little chamber, I pray thee, on the wall, and let us set for him there a bed, and a table, and a stool, and a candlestick. And it shall be, when he cometh to us, that he shall turn in thither. And it fell on a day that he came thither, And he turned into the chamber and lay there. And he said to Gehazi, his servant, call this Shunammite. And when he had called her, she stood before him. And he said unto him, say now unto her, behold, thou hast been careful for us with all this care. What is to be done for thee? Wouldest thou be spoken for to the king, or to the captain of the host? And she answered, I dwell among mine own people.
Okay, so now, Elisha always take this route, this route, and passing by this lady's house, and she was always hospitable towards him. Whenever she sees him, she recognizes him as a man of the Most High, and always provided bread and lodging for Elisha. And to the point that she said, hey, I recognize him she said to her husband, I recognize him as a man of the Most High. So I think we should, we should build a little rule for him and so on. So whenever we pass by, he always has somewhere to stay. And Elisha was inquiring of her, what does she want in return for this kindness? Do you want me to speak on behalf of in your behalf to noble people in Israel? She said, I dwell among my own people. Read on, verse 14.
Verse 14. And he said, what then is to be done for her? And Gehazi answered, verily she had no child, and her husband is old. And he said, call her. And when he had called her, she stood in the door. And he said, about this season, according to the time of life, thou shalt embrace a son. And she said, nay, my lord, thou man of the Most High, do not lie unto thine handmaid. And the woman conceived, and bare a son at that season that Elisha had said unto her, according to the time of life. And when the child was grown, it fell on a day that he went out to his father to the reapers. And he said unto his father, my head, my head. And he said to a lad, carry him to his mother. And when he had taken him and brought him to his mother, he sat on her knees till noon, and then died. And she went up and laid him on the bed of the man of the Most High, and shut the door upon him, and went out.
Okay, so Elijah and his servant Gehazi saw that the woman was didn't have a child. Her husband was old, and they had no children. So they decided they're gonna appeal to the Most High to grant her a child. So to give her a child. So Elisha told her, by next year this time, yeah, you're gonna be a mother. You're gonna conceive. You're gonna have a son. And of course, this kind of like the same thing that Abraham and Sarah were told by the angel of the Most High, which because of the age, they were kind of skeptical, but the Most High still granted them, blessed them in that regard to have a child. And the Most High did the same thing to this woman and her husband. They had a son, and the son grew up, a young lad. He fell sick, and then he died. She laid him on Elisha's bed and locked the door. Read on.
Verse 22. And she called unto her husband and said, send.
Get me Ecclesiastes 12 verse 7. What happens when someone dies? The spirit that's in that body goes back to the Most High. Ecclesiastes 12 verse 7.
The book of Ecclesiastes chapter 12 verse 7. Then shall the dust return to the earth as it was.
Right. So when someone dies and they're buried, the body is buried, then shall the dust return unto the earth as it was. That's what the body initially came from. When mankind was first created from the dust of the earth. Read it again.
Then shall the dust return to the earth as it was.
Then shall the dust return unto the earth as it was. Read on.
And the spirit shall return unto the Most High who gave it.
and the spirit shall return unto the Most High who gave it. It was the Most High who gave the spirit upon conception. Okay, the spirit of the from the Most High enters into the uterus of the woman, you know, and the soul, you know, and then a body, then a child is created. So when a person dies, the body goes back to the earth, and the spirit that was in that person goes back up to heaven with the Most High, who sent that spirit in the first place. So that's exactly what happened when this child died. When the child, is there more of that? Okay, go back to 2 Kings. When this child died, even though the child wasn't buried yet, but the spirit had left. Had left the body. Read 19 again.
The book of 2 Kings, chapter 4, verse 19. And he said unto his father, my head, my head. And he said to a lad, carry him to his mother. And when he had taken him and brought him to his mother, he sat on her knees till noon, and then died. And she went up and laid him on the bed of the man of the Most High, and shut the door upon him, and went out. And she called unto her husband, and said, send me, I pray thee, one of the young men, and one of the asses, that I may run, and one of the donkeys, that I may run unto the man, that I may run to the man of the Most High, and come again. And he said, wherefore wilt thou...
See, her faith was strong right there. Her son died. She knew her son was on her lap for a while. I guess she was trying to comfort him and revive him, but to no avail. He died in a way, but now she went on. Her faith was very strong because she believed that the Son of the Most High, Elijah, was able to bring back her son. She saddled up her donkey and jumped on it and went off to meet Elisha. Read on.
Verse 23. And he said, wherefore wilt thou go to him today? It is neither new moon nor Sabbath. And she said, it shall be well.
See, it was neither new moon nor Sabbath. So, you know, so they kept the laws of the Most High. These were righteous people. They kept the Sabbath and they kept the new moon. Read on.
Then she saddled a donkey and said to her servant, drive and go forward. Slack not thy riding for me, except I bid thee. So she went and came unto the man of the Most High to Mount Carmel. And it came to pass, when the man of the Most High saw her afar off, that he said to Gehazi his servant, behold, yonder is that Shunammite. Run now, I pray thee, to meet her, and say unto her, is it well with thee? Is it well with thy husband? Is it well with the child? And she answered, it is well.
Right, so okay, so Elijah saw her coming and sent Gehazi's servant to meet her and inquire what the problem was with her, if everything was well. And she answered, it is well. Read on. Was it well with the child? She answered, it is well. Read on.
And when she came to the man of the Most High to the hill, she caught him by the feet. But Gehazi came near to thrust her away. And the man of the Most High said, let her alone, for her soul is vexed within her, and the Most High hath hid it from me, and hath not told me. Then she said, did I desire a son of my Lord? Did I not say, do not deceive me? Then he said to Gehazi, gird up thy loins, and take my staff in thine hand, and go thy way. If thou meet any man, salute him not. And if any salute thee, answer him not again. And lay my staff upon the face of the child. And the mother of the child said, as the Most High liveth, and as the soul liveth, I will not leave thee. And he arose and followed her. And Gehazi passed on before them, and laid the staff upon the face of the child. But there was not voice nor hearing. Wherefore he went again to meet him, and told him, saying, the child is not awaked.
Right, so Elijah gave Gehazi his staff and told him, hey, just go straight to this lady's house and lay the staff upon the face of the child. Don't greet anyone on the way. And if anyone greets you, do not respond to them. Don't salute them. So he did that exactly that, but the child did not respond. So he told Elijah what happened, that the child was not responding. Read on.
Verse 32. And when Elisha was come into the house, behold, the child was dead, and laid upon his bed. He went in therefore, and shut the door upon them twain, and prayed unto the Most High. And he went up, and laid upon the child, and put his mouth upon his mouth, and his eyes upon his eyes, and his hands upon his hands. And he stretched himself upon the child, and the flesh of the child waxed warm. Then he returned and walked in the house to and fro, and went up and stretched himself upon him. And the child sneezed 7 times, and the child opened his eyes.
See that? So okay. So Elijah decided to take matter into his own hands. So he interacted with the child, put his mouth on the child's mouth, his eyes upon the child's eyes, and his hand upon the child's hands, and then left. Went outside. Then the child started to get to regain the spirit. The spirit of the Most High started re-enter back into the child. And the child became alive again. And sneezed 7 times. Read on.
Verse 36. And he called Gehazi and said, Call this Shunammite. So he called her, and when she was come in unto him, he said, Take up thy son. Then she went in and fell at his feet, and bowed herself to the ground, and took up her son and went out. And Elisha came again to Gilgal, and there was a dearth in the land. And the sons of the prophets were sitting before him. And he said unto his servant.
So Elijah came again to Gilgal, and there was a dearth in the land, like a drought. Like a drought. Which when it was in the drought, because the drought leads to what? Famine. So there was famine in the towards Samaria at that time. So that's why the state was at a hard time providing for the people had a hard time providing for themselves. Read 38 again.
Verse 38. And Elisha came again to Gilgal, and there was a dearth in the land, and the sons of the prophets were sitting before him. And he said unto his servant, Set on the great pot, and see the pottage for the sons of the prophets. And one went out into the field to gather herbs, and found a wild vine, and gathered thereof wild gourds his lap full, and came and shred them into the pot of pottage, for they knew them not. So they poured out for the men to eat. And it came to pass, as they were eating of the pottage, that they cried out and said, O thou man of the Most High, there is a dearth in the pot. And they could not eat thereof. But he said, Then bring meal.
Wait a minute, there's death in the pot.
Oh, Salakia. O thou man of the Most High, there is death in the pot, and they could not eat thereof.
Wait a minute, what death would that be? So they poured out for the men to eat. And it came to pass, as they were eating of the pottage, that they cried out and said, O thou man of Most High, there is death in the pot, and they could not eat thereof. So I guess maybe rolled into something, might have died, might have snuck into the pot and got boiled in the pottage. Read on.
Verse 41. But he said, Then bring meal. And he cast it into the pot. And he said, Pour out for the people, that they may eat. And there was no harm in the pot. And there came a man from Baal Shalisha, and brought the men of the Most High bread of the first fruits, 20 loaves of barley, and full ears of corn in the husk thereof. And he said, Give unto the people, that they may eat. And his servitor said, What, should I set this before 100 men? And he said again, Give the people, that they may eat. For thus saith the Most High, They shall eat, and shall leave thereof.
So, okay, so let's go back to verse 42. And there came a man from Baal, Shalisha, and brought the man of Moses bread of the first fruits, 20 loaves of barley, and full ears of corn in the husk thereof. 20 ears, 20 loaves, right? And he said, give unto the people that they may eat. And his servitor said, what? Shall I set this before 100 men? How am I going to feed 100 men with 20 loaves? He said there again, give the people that they may eat. For thus said the Most High, they shall eat and shall leave thereof. So the Most High was going to give the increase. The Most High was going to feed 100 men with 20 loaves. And there was going to be leftovers after that. Read on.
Verse 43. And his servitor said, what, should I set this before 100 men? He said again, give the people that they may eat. For thus saith the Most High, they shall eat and shall leave thereof. So he set it before them, and they did eat, and left thereof, according to the word of the Most High.
Right, so the Most High gave the increase that 20 loaves of bread was more than enough to feed 100 people. They ate till they were full, and there was leftovers from what they ate. Okay, then just jump to verse chapter 5.
The book of 2 Kings, chapter 5, verse 1. Now Naaman, captain of the host of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master, and honorable, because by him the Most High had given deliverance unto Syria. He was also a mighty man in valor, but he was a leper.
Okay, so this Naaman was a captain of the Syrian army, captain of the host of the king of Syria. And he was a leper, but he was a valiant warrior. And with him, the Most High gave a lot of victory to Syria. But this guy was a leper. Read on.
And the Syrians had gone out by companies, and had brought away captive out of the land of Israel a little maid, and she waited on Naaman's wife.
So the Syrians had gone out by companies and had brought away captive out of the land of Israel a little maid as wife. So, so the Syrians were at this time waging war against Israel, and it was pressuring Israel military-wise. And
The one were with the prophet that is in Samaria, for he would recover him of his leprosy. And one went in and told his Adawan, saying, thus and thus said the maid that is of the land of Israel. And the king of Syria said, go, and I will send a letter unto the king of Israel. And he departed and took with him 10 talents of silver, and 6,000 pieces of gold, and 10 changes of raiment.
Okay, so this handmaid, the Israelite handmaid, told her mistress that there was a prophet in Israel, a man of the Most High, who was able to cure Naaman of his leprosy. So the king of Syria decided to write a letter to the king of Israel to contact this prophet Elisha, and he sent gifts to give to the prophet. Read on.
Verse 6.
Elisha.
And he brought the letter to the king of Israel, saying, now when this letter is come unto thee, behold, I have therewith sent Naaman my servant to thee, that thou mayest recover him of his leprosy. And it came to pass, when the king of Israel had read the letter, that he rent his clothes, and said, am I the Most High to kill and to make alive, that this man doth sent unto me to recover a man of his leprosy? Wherefore consider, I pray you, and see how he seeketh a quarrel against me.
So the king of Israel was like, what? Who does the guy think I am? I'm not the Most High. How is he going to send to me to inquire of me, or to ask of me to cure his servant of his leprosy? This man is asking for trouble. Bear witness how this man is asking for trouble. Am I the Most High who kill and make alive? That I can cure anybody of the leprosy? Read on.
Verse 8. And it was so, when Elisha, the man of the Most High, had heard the king of Israel had rent his clothes, that he sent to the king, saying, Wherefore hast thou rent thy clothes? Let him come now to me, and he shall know that there is a prophet in Israel.
Yeah, so of course, Syria was already pressuring Israel. So now, the king of Israel was even more worried that this guy is making a demand of him that he was not able to meet. So he started renting his clothes, and I started lamenting. I started getting bothered. But Elisha the prophet said, "Why are you so troubled? Send the king to me, and he will know that there is indeed a prophet in Israel." Read on.
So Naaman came with his horses and with his chariot, and stood at the door of the house of Elisha. And Elisha sent a messenger unto him, saying, Go, and wash in Jordan 7 times, and thy flesh shall come again to thee, and thou shalt be clean.
So what does it mean? What's a leper, by the way? Totally lacking pigmentation. No pigmentation. Understand? What did hold on. Genesis 25. Genesis 25:21.
The book of Genesis, chapter 25, verse 21.
Mm-hmm.
And Isaac entreated the Most High for his wife, because she was barren. And the Most High was entreated of him. And Rebekah his wife conceived. And the children struggled together within her. And she said, If it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Most High. And the Most High said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels.
Jump to verse 24.
Verse 24. And when her days to be
So Isaac was Isaac's wife Rebekah was barren. So Isaac had to appeal to the Most High and beseech the Most High to open up her womb so she could conceive. And the Most High heard his prayer. Okay, and now she had to conceive having twins in the womb. All right, read on, 24.
Verse 24. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her. And the first came out red, all over like an hairy garment. And they called his name Esau.
What does Esau mean? Wasted. Why was Esau wasted? What was wasted about Esau? His skin, right? Lacking pigmentation. There was understand? I read on. See, it tells you the description of Esau, his complexion. But let's see what it said about Jacob. Read on.
Verse 26. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them.
See that? He said nothing about the complexion of Jacob. Why? Because Jacob's complexion was natural. There was nothing abnormal about Jacob's complexion. But they mentioned Esau's complexion. Why? He came red. Why was came with red? Why? He was lacking that pigmentation. Okay, let's go back to 2 Kings. Wasted. That's what Esau means. Wasted. Lacking pigmentation. Read on.
Which verse?
2 Kings of 5. Read 10 again. Reverse 10.
The book of 2 Kings, chapter 5, verse 10. And Elisha sent a messenger unto him, saying, Go and wash in Jordan 7 times, and thy flesh shall come again to thee, and thou shalt be clean. But Naaman was wroth, and went away, and behold, I thought, he will surely come out to me, and stand, and call on the name of the Most High his power, and strike his hand over the place, and recover the leper.
See that? So Naaman went to Elisha, and Elisha gave him instruction what to do. He said, go to River Jordan and wash yourself 7 times in the water, and then your flesh shall be clean, and thou shalt be clean, and thy flesh shall come again to thee. See, your flesh shall come again to you. So a leper is someone whose flesh is wasted. Understand? So anyone you see all the so-called white people lacking pigmentation, but they're clean lepers though. So Naaman was wroth because he thought Elisha was gonna perform some kind of a ritual. He was gonna perform some kind of a ritual and call upon the name of the Most High and do something spectacular in his presence to have his skin and return to him. I read on.
Verse 12. Are not Abana and Pharpar, rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? May I not wash in them and be clean? So he turned and went away in a rage.
So I said, we got rivers in Damascus. We got rivers in Damascus better than the Jordan. We got the Abana. We got the Pharpar rivers in Damascus better than the rivers of Jordan. Hey, if that's a miracle that I could just wash myself if that's the answer that I could just wash myself 7 times in the river, I would have done that in Damascus in one of our rivers, which are better than your river. So went away in a furious. Read on.
Verse 13. And his servants came near and spake unto him and said, My father, if the prophet had bid thee do some great thing, wouldest thou not have done it? How much rather then, when he saith to thee, Wash and be clean? Then went he down and dipped himself 7 times.
So it was mad with the servants kind of calling down and said, if the prophet had told him to do something difficult, wouldn't you have done it? Yeah, you would. So how much easier it is for you to just go and wash yourself in the river to regain your flesh. So he went and washed himself in the river. Read on.
Then he went down and dipped himself 7 times in Jordan, according to the saying of the man of the Most High. And his flesh came again like unto the flesh of a little child, and he was clean. And he returned to the man of the Most High, he and all his company, and came and stood before him. And he said, Behold, now I know that there is no power in all the earth, but in Israel.
See that? Now I know that there is no power in all the earth, but in Israel. Give me Psalm 96 and 5. Even the heathens are knowing that. Because what? Through all this, he was the captain of the host of Syria, one of the major military at that time. So he had access to all the sorcerers, all the access to all the medical staff and all that, and they were not able to cleanse him of his leper. Their idols were not able to cleanse him of his leper. Where did he have to go to get cleansed of his leper? To Israel, to the prophet of the Most High, Elisha. Psalm 96 and 5.
The book of Psalms, chapter 96, verse 5. For all the powers of the nations are idols, but the Most High made the heavens.
Read it as it is.
For all the gods of the nations are idols.
The gods of the nations are idols, but they have no power. They are something that man made. Read on.
But the Lord made the heavens.
But the Most High made the heavens. The Most High is the only power there is. The power of Israel, the only God. Understand? Go back to Kings. No, sorry. Get me Isaiah 45, verse 15.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 45, verse 15. Verily thou art a God that hidest thyself, O Yahweh of Israel, the Savior.
See, verily thou art a God that hideth thyself, O God of Israel, the Savior. See, the Most High, see that? O God of Israel. Who's saying this? Read verse 1 of that same chapter, Isaiah 45.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 45, verse 1. Thus saith the Most High to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have holden, to subdue the nations before him, and I will loose the loins of kings, to open before him the two-leaved gates.
Who's Cyrus? So was the king of Syria. This was later on, though. What did Cyrus say? Because Cyrus saw that the miracles of the Most High performed for him. I was strengthening him against the other nations that he fought against. Verily thou art a power that hidest thyself, O God of Israel, because the Most High doesn't reveal himself to other nations unless he has an occasion to do so. Verily thou art a God that hidest thyself, O God of Israel. And even the nations know that what? The power, the only power that there is the God of Israel and Israel only. And that's exactly what this Naaman was saying, right? Go back to 2 Kings. And that's exactly what Naaman was saying when he was healed. I verse that again. Verse 15. Read 15 again.
The book of 2 Kings, chapter 15. And he returned to the man of the Most High, he and all his company, and came and stood before him. And he said, Behold, now I know that there is no power in all the earth but in Israel.
See, even the heathens know that. Read on.
Now therefore, I pray thee, take a blessing of thy servant. But he said, As the Most High liveth, before whom I stand, I will receive none. And he urged him to take it, but he refused.
So Naaman was showing gratitude. As a token of his, of his appreciation, he was willing to give Elijah a gift, but Elijah refused to take the gift. Read on.
And Naaman said, Shalt there not then, I pray thee, be given to thy servant 2 mules burden of earth? For thy servant will henceforth offer neither burnt offering nor sacrifice unto other powers, but unto the Most High.
So from now on, Naaman said, Shall there not then, I pray thee, be given to thy servant 2 mules burden of earth? For thy servant will henceforth offer neither burnt offering nor sacrifice unto other gods, but unto the Most High. So Naaman was saying, no, hey, the power of Israel, the power of Yahweh, is the only power that I know. That's who I'm going to be worshiping from now on. Because he acknowledged that no other power on earth was able to do the miracle that Naaman was able to Elisha was able to perform on behalf of the Most High. Read on.
Verse 18. In this thing the Most High pardon thy servant, that when my master goeth in the house of Rimmon to worship there, and he leaneth on my hand, and I bow myself in the house of Rimmon. When I bow myself in the house of Rimmon, the Most High pardon thy servant in this thing. And he said unto him, Go in peace. So he departed from him a little way. But Gehazi, the servant of Elisha, the man of the Most High, said, Behold, My master had spared Naaman the Syrian, in not receiving at his hands that which he brought. But as the Most High liveth, I will run after him and take somewhat of him.
But now Gehazi, Elijah's prophet, saw that Elisha had refused the gift that Naaman was giving him. But he said, "What? My master refused the gift, but I'm going to run after Naaman and take that what he wanted to give to Elisha." So right here you can see the spirit of covetousness jumped on Gehazi. If your master refused the gift, why did you want to take it? Why weren't you satisfied with what you had? Read on.
Verse 21. So Gehazi followed after Naaman, and when Naaman saw him running after him, he lighted down from the chariot to meet him, and said, "Is all well?" And he said, "All is well. My master had sent me, saying, Behold, even now there be come to me from Mount Ephraim 2 young men of the sons of the prophets. Give them, I pray thee, a talent of silver and 2 changes of garments." And Naaman said, "Be content, take 2 talents. And he urged him and bound 2 talents of silver in 2 bags, with 2 changes of garments, and laid them upon 2 of his servants, and they bare them before him. And when he came to the tower, he took them from their hand, and bestowed them in their house. And he let the men go, and they departed.
So they run after Naaman. So Gehazi followed after Naaman, and when Naaman saw him running after him, he alighted down from the chariot to meet him and said, "Is it all well?" And he said, "All is well. My master has sent me." And he said, "All is well. My master has sent me, saying, Behold, even now they..." So he lied, because Elisha didn't send him. And he said, "All is well. My master has sent me, saying, Behold, even now there be come to me from Mount Ephraim 2 young men of the sons of the prophets. Give them, I pray thee, a talent of silver and 2 changes of garments." And Naaman said, "Be content, take 2 talents." And he urged him and bound 2 talents of silver in 2 bags with 2 changes of garments, and laid them upon 2 of his servants. And they bare them before him. Read on. 24.
Verse 24. And when he came to the tower, he took them from their hand, and bestowed them in the house. And he let the men go, and they departed. But he went in, and stood before his master. And Elisha said unto him, "Whence comest thou, Gehazi?" And he said, "Thy servant went no whither."
See, you lied against. How silly could you be? You lied to the prophet of the Most, a man of the Most High. Because Elisha already knew where he went. So when Gehazi came back, after Gehazi came back with the gifts that were meant for that Elisha refused. And Elisha asked him where he went. He said, "Thy servant went no whither." I didn't go nowhere. Read on.
Verse 26. And he said unto him, "Went not mine heart with thee, when the man turned again from his chariot to meet thee? Is it a time to receive money, and to receive garments, and olive yards, and vineyards, and sheep, and oxen, and men servants, and maid servants? The leprosy therefore of Naaman shall cleave unto thee, and unto thy seed forever." And he went out from his presence a leper as white as snow.
See that? The spirit of covetousness jumped on Gehazi. So he ran up to Naaman to receive the gift that was meant that Naaman Elisha had refused and lied about it. So now, as a punishment for that, Elisha had the spirit of leprosy, the leprosy that left Naaman jump on Gehazi. Which I said, to cleave to him and his seed forever. So that's the conclusion of chapter 5. So we're going to end right there so the brothers can have time to get ready to go to camp and I do the Most High's work. So don't forget tomorrow, the Most High is willing, we'll have the continuation of the Shabbat service with Chief Minister Shalom, and at 11 a.m. Eastern, we'll have the Hebrew class. So if you want everyone for logging in, on the conference on YouTube, the live channels, we're going to conclude now with the 133rd Psalms. And Madiam Wapanya Yerushalayim, stand and face Jerusalem. Shayar, Hama Ailwa, Ladawad, Hana, Ma, Tawab, Wama, Naayam, Shabbat, Akyam, Gam, Yakad, Kashaman, Atawab, Ail, Araash, Yarad, Ail, Zakwan, Ha'aran, Shayarad, Ail, Kaya, Madawakyawa, Katal, Karamwan, Shayarad, Ail, Araria, Tazayawan, Kaya, Sham, Kazawa, Yahweh, Abaraka, Kayawam, Iwalam, Bahashim, Hamashiach, Yahushai, the water, Aman.
The book of Psalms, chapter 133. Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. It is like the precious ointment upon the head that ran down upon the beard, even Aaron's beard, that went down to the skirts of his garments, as the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the mountains of Zion. For there